So today, we're diving into the story of a man who was, well, a walking contradiction. A chemist who genuinely dreamed of building a better world, but ended up creating one of its most powerful tools of destruction. This is the story of Alfred Nobel, and it kicks off with something straight out of a nightmare, waking up to read your own obituary. Okay, picture this. It's 1888. Alfred Nobel grabs a French newspaper, and everything just stops. Because staring right back at him is his own death announcement. Now, it was a mistake, right? The paper got him mixed up with his brother Ludwig, who had just died. But the headline? Oh, that was no mistake. It was a brutal gut punch. They didn't call him a brilliant inventor. They called him a merchant of death. And that right there, that's the whole puzzle of his life. How on earth does a man branded the merchant of death become the guy who creates the world's most famous prize for peace? To figure that out, we've got to go back to the beginning, back to a super dangerous liquid and a family tragedy that changed everything.
Yeah, before there was dynamite, there was nitroglycerin. And let me tell you, this stuff was a killer. The substance Nobel was obsessed with was one of the most volatile, unpredictable liquids ever made.
It was discovered way back in 1846. Nitroglycerin looks like this oily, harmless liquid, but it's hiding a terrifying secret. It is violently unstable. I mean, the guy who invented it was so scared of it, he basically told everyone, don't use this. The slightest little shake, a tiny change in temperature, and boom. It was just way too dangerous for any real practical use. But Alfred Nobel, he saw something else. He looked past the danger and saw pure raw power. He just knew if he could figure out how to tame this liquid, it could blast through mountains, connect continents, do things old school black powder couldn't even dream of. The potential for progress was huge, but, the potential for blowing yourself up was even bigger. And that danger became horrifyingly real. In 1864, an explosion at the family factory in Stockholm killed 5 people. And one of them was Alfred's 20-year-old brother, Emil. Suddenly, this wasn't just some scientific challenge anymore. It felt like a blood debt. He became absolutely obsessed with taming the liquid demon that had killed his brother. So, driven by this awful tragedy, Nobel just poured everything he had into finding a solution. He was determined to get this power under control, to make sure no other family had to go through what his did. Now, here's a really important piece of the story that a lot of people miss. Before he could even think about making the liquid stable, he had to figure out how to set it off, but on his own terms. His first huge breakthrough was the blasting cap, a tiny little detonator that could trigger the big explosion from a safe distance. Seriously, without that little key, even a stable explosive is just a useless lump of paste. The real aha moment came from something you'd never expect, a weird, porous type of dirt called kieselguhr. It's basically just a fine powder made from fossilized algae. What Nobel discovered was that when he mixed the super volatile nitroglycerin into this totally inert powder, it just soaked it right up, completely transforming it. And the process itself was just beautifully simple. First, you take the dangerous liquid, and you let the kieselguhr absorb it, turning it into this stable, doughy paste. Second, you shape that paste into easy-to-carry rods. And third, you stick in the blasting cap, ready for a controlled detonation. And just like that, an untamable liquid became a powerful, manageable, world-changing tool. And here it is, English Patent 1345 from 1867. This piece of paper made it official. Nobel had cracked a problem nobody thought could be solved. His invention was ready to go. All it needed was a good name. At first, he actually thought about calling it Nobel's safety powder, to really highlight how stable it was. But Nobel wasn't just a brilliant inventor, he was a seriously smart businessman. He knew that safety doesn't sell nearly as well as power. So he landed on dynamite, from the old Greek word for power, dynamis. It was pure marketing genius. And with a name like dynamite, you better believe the invention just exploded onto the world stage. It was going to reshape our planet in all the ways Nobel hoped for, and in a few ways that would haunt him for the rest of his days. And the scale of his success? It was just staggering. Alfred Nobel wasn't some one-hit wonder. This guy was an industrial titan. By the time he died, he held 355 patents and owned a global empire with factories in over 20 countries. You see, dynamite was the ultimate double-edged sword. On one side, it was this incredible tool for progress, blasting tunnels through mountains, digging canals like the Panama Canal, building railways. It literally paved the way for the modern world we live in. But the other side? Well, it also gave humanity a terrifyingly efficient new way to kill each other.
So all of this, the building up and the tearing down, it made Alfred Nobel an incredibly wealthy man. We're talking one of the richest people of his time. But that massive fortune, built on something so powerful and so deadly, well, it came with a heavy price. A price he was reminded of every single time he thought back to that horrible obituary.
Which brings us right back to where we started, to a man wrestling with his own legacy. That headline, Merchant of Death, it just echoed in his head, forcing him to ask himself, how is the world really going to remember me? Deeply, deeply troubled, Nobel decided he had to do something. He wanted to rewrite his own story, to use the mountain of money he'd made from dynamite for something good. He came up with a secret plan, one that nobody would find out about until after he was gone.
When his will was finally read, it caused an absolute uproar. I mean, people were shocked. He left almost all of his gigantic fortune, a mind-boggling 94% of it, not to his family, but to create a series of prizes for people who gave the greatest benefit to humankind.
And these prizes really reflected who he was. Physics and chemistry, of course, those were his scientific passions. Medicine, for making people healthier. Literature, which was actually a dream of his when he was young. And then, the most important one of all, a prize for peace.
And this is where we land on the final, jaw-dropping irony of it all. The Nobel Peace Prize, right? The world's biggest symbol of harmony and goodwill, is funded entirely by the profits from dynamite, a fortune built on destruction, now dedicated to celebrating peace. So that leaves us with a really tough question, doesn't it? Alfred Nobel read his own obituary and then spent the rest of his life desperately trying to rewrite it. So did he pull it off? Can you really build a legacy of peace on a fortune made from destruction? It's a complicated thought, and maybe the answer is just as unstable as dynamite itself.